Thank you for tuning in to Elevated Arts and Healing, the podcast. I'm your host, Amy Elevated, and today we are sharing a little bit more of my sobriety story and just some revelations I've had over this year since starting the podcast, and just a couple of updates of what's going on here in the Elevated Arts and Healing space. This is a very special episode to me. It took a lot of really preparing for this to feel ready to share this part of my story. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I really hope that this helps even one person um, get to or stay sober. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. So, it's been a minute since I've done like a check-in type of episode and like just kind of like a free form type of episode. And I just finished the Empower Consistency series, which I'm super excited about. It was my first like structured series, and it really sparked some creativity in me and it got me excited for what's to come on the podcast. And I just want to say thank y'all for being here first and foremost. We started this podcast in February and are still going strong here. 2023 has been a transformative year. It's been good and it's also been trying in a lot of ways. But 2023 has shown me just how far I've come in almost every single way. And so I think that it's fitting that here at the end where I'm doing a lot of reflecting and seeing that I'm starting to see parts of me that maybe I didn't want to see before. And in sobriety, I'm still in my early stages and experiencing a lot of firsts. And now I am being more honest about my addiction with myself, really. I'm seeing where I I guess I really lied to myself. I was really in delusion about what was going on in my life. And it took me hearing some more sober stories and hearing about people who were in a similar place as me, um, to really see it for what it is. So I do want to share definitely some of that story with y'all today and some updates. So before we get into my sober revelations that I've come into, um, got some new things in the shop. So I am doing a Rescue My Residence sale, and I am selling some limited edition posters of my collage art, and that art is very special to me as well. Just I don't know, it's kind of like bits and pieces of my favorite things put together, and it kind of tells my story of it. And once I kind of get into that, it'll make more sense. And also, I have my reflection set up, um, doing a lot of reflecting, and I feel like it's fitting. So definitely go check out amyelevated.com, and stay tuned because the Empowered Consistency Workbook is getting a spruce up, and it's going to be re-released here very, very soon. So be on the lookout for that. So definitely check out amyelevated.com and support me if you love me. I love y'all. So revelations I've had from this year, some things that I want to highlight. I did in the beginning of the year, I did an interview with Ashante about my experience in the business coaching program. And then I did an interview with Malira Green for the I Am Enough project that she was doing. And both of these things really started to open me up a little bit more to sharing, even though it was something that I already wanted to do. But I really got that ball rolling. And I think starting the podcast gave me a huge leg up as far as feeling better about stepping into sharing my story and speaking and things like that. And I did a self-love photo shoot as well, and I kind of just like really came into a piece of me that I had shut down. Like I'm a very sensual, like I person, like, and very passionate. And it's something that I had kind of shut down for a while. I had become someone else, and I feel like I'm really, really getting back into me. Shortly after this, I went back home and visited my hometown in Florida, and that brought back a lot of feelings. It brought back a lot of feelings. That's the first time I had been home sober, and it was a lot. It was a lot. And I was like, I am glad that I made it out of here. I knew I wasn't really supposed to be there, and like I know that I made the right decision moving away, and it's changed my life in so many ways, but that was definitely eye-opening. So really this year has been a lot of different things. And the gym closed in June, and that was definitely a shock to my system. It's been a minute since I've been like laid off, and that was definitely different for me. And I'm really proud of myself because I like leaned into, okay, I'm going to use this time that I'm blessed with to work on my business and myself and all of these things. And I'm so proud of that because I know there was a point in time where that would have crushed me and things would have just been like out of control, but nothing got out of control. I really held it down, and damn, I'm just really proud of myself. I like so, 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 so proud of myself, and so thankful to have made it to the side. Yeah, it's been a lot of stuff that I've been dealing with, and currently just trying to make sure that we keep our place. And that's been a lot to deal with too because that's brought up a lot of feelings, it's triggered a lot of feelings. And so this is really where the revelations about my sobriety started rolling in, because this is the first time since I've been sober that I've had to deal with emotions this heavy and a trigger this heavy and like worries this heavy. And that was eye-opening for me because sobriety has been, I don't want to say like a breeze because it hasn't been easy, but I feel like the triggers, I've only experienced like one other like very strong trigger where like my mind was like, man, I just want to have a drink right now. I wish I was drinking right now. And I sat with that and I worked through that, and it's been quite a while since I felt like that. And I definitely have felt like that here recently, and that was a lot for me. It was a little scary for me, and I really just decided to like really get serious about finding more community. I have a small little bit of community, but I want to be more active. And I think this is going to be the catalyst into getting me more active in the sober community and more intertwined, because I understand how important it is to have that community and to not isolate and to not try to do this on my own. I just have to remember, like, I've tried that before. I've tried the isolating and doing it on my own, and that got me into a very deep, dark hole that I never ever want to get back into. So I've been listening to a lot of sober podcasts and hearing my story said through other people, and it's just inspired me to share. And I feel like I've been trying to not look at this for a really long time. And so I didn't really get into drinking and doing other substances until I was definitely like pretty much of age to do all of these things. Like in high school, I smoked a little bit of weed and I didn't like it, so I just didn't do it again. And then there was like a small period of time where I had gotten close to somebody who was really into pills, and so I was taking things that I didn't actually know what they were or what they were going to do to me. And um, I remember not liking that after a while too, so I kind of just stopped doing that, and I just didn't touch anything for a long time after that. I think the first time I ever drank for real was, I think I was about 18, and I I definitely got blackout drunk, and that's kind of almost what my drinking looked like for a long time, was just drinking too much, not understanding what a limit was. But I feel like most of us who drink early on don't understand the whole limit thing. We just, oh, this is fun, so I'm gonna keep doing it. After that, I didn't drink all of that much until I was about 20, and then it was like kind of on then. Um, I'd also just become a mom, and so anxiety went to like 1,000. Um, I have been raising my son on my own with my village for 15 years now. So then I just turned 20, I just had a baby, and I would hang out after work and things like that, and drink with my homies because that was just how we would unwind. And at that point, everything was kind of chill and it escalated a bit. But again, we were really young, so nobody was really thinking anything of it. And it was really just like that. So I was definitely drinking too much, but I didn't really feel like it was too much because everyone around me was drinking a lot too, and we were college age and doing that thing. And of course, I had a whole different life, and I felt very alone because no one really had kids. I think I had one other friend who had kids, but everybody else was kind of just doing their thing. And I felt like I was just trying to do both. I was trying to be a young person having fun and also trying to be a responsible mom and trying to figure out who I was outside of being a mom as well. And I got postpartum depression pretty bad. I struggled for a long time, and when I tried to reach out for help, I was met with depression is for weak-minded people. So I struggled a long time without really getting any help for that. I do remember I talked to my doctor about it, but I never really tried to get treatment because I just felt like, oh, if I could just be stronger, that I would be okay. And I think at some point, drinking went from just having a good time to forgetting my problems to eventually like being my coping mechanism. So when I turned 21, I was pretty much one of the first people in my friend group to turn 21, so I was the alcohol person. And again, spending a lot of time, like partying and doing the thing. So it was just like mainly like weekends and time that I'm off. And so nothing too crazy. I was definitely drinking too much still, but not really thinking anything of it. And I think really around this time I ended up getting with an alcoholic who I did not realize was an alcoholic at the time because again we were all drinking a lot. So like this felt normal. And this is around the time where I think I started to try. I had gotten with this alcoholic boyfriend, and this is kind of where I think things got a little topsy-turvy. Like I said, I was we were all still me and my friend group were all still drinking a lot of the time. So this, felt normal to me. And um, eventually I ended up getting kicked out of my grandmother's house because of the decisions I was making from drinking and being with this person and kind of being influenced by that, and ended up moving out into my own place, and that lasted I think about 8 months. I ended up staying on my own for about 8 months, and that was a really interesting time for sure. A lot of things in my life were starting to I don't know, things were just starting to get weird is like the best way I could like describe it. I think it's just I was starting to see like how certain things weren't okay, and I was living with an alcoholic, so I got to see like the real like nitty-gritty of what that means. And for me, a lot of that time that meant we were fighting. And I actually remember one night things just got really escalated and I almost died. So that was a very not fun experience. Um, but eventually I did end up leaving him after I ended up losing my apartment and just kind of figuring out that like, we just weren't good for each other and I wasn't going anywhere being in that relationship and I hadn't really connected my drinking at all to where I was at yet because, there was people who were way worse than me and I didn't feel like that it was a problem. Honestly, until just recently, really looking back, like I never felt like any of that time period was a problem or a red flag and hindsight is 2020, so I give myself a lot of grace in not really knowing about addiction and what it could look like. And, we just really weren't as educated about those things as we are now. And after I left that boyfriend, I ended up going back to school and graduating from college with my medical assistant degree. And that was really cool. That was something I actually really, really enjoyed doing. I really, really enjoyed um, learning medical assisting. And this is kind of where things started to turn for me as well. Things started to ramp up just a little bit here. So I was definitely still drinking at the time. And this is where I started to try harder substances to quell the anxiety and to give me confidence is what I thought was confidence at the time. And I started trying all kinds of different things. I tried ecstasy. I did that for a little while. Um, I tried cocaine. It wasn't anything that I did long term because I knew that my uncle had told me that he had gotten into drugs and kind of just explained that a little bit to me. So I kind of knew that addiction ran in the family. And so things that I knew that were like super addictive, I tried to stay away from because I felt like that would, as long as I stayed away from the super hard drugs, I would be okay, I guess. I don't know. It was like addiction logic, I guess is what you would call it. And so I just went through the races of trying different things and then um I was introduced to Xanax and that felt like the magic cure for me. That was like I never knew that you could feel like that. I felt so calm. All of the anxiety that I had in me calmed down. So that was something that I really attached to. And that was when I started to self-medicate for my mental health issues that I wasn't fully aware of. Again, this is definitely a very interesting time. This is before I think substances started to become what I was coping with for everything. And in 2012, my best friend got into a car accident and he ended up losing his life after being on life support for a while, which was really hard to deal with. And that was the first death I feel like that rocked me this way. And it was the first time I ever remember like really just getting to a point where I felt like I couldn't even function. Had gotten really honest. I was barely taking care of myself and I felt like I couldn't take care of my son. So I asked for help and he went and stayed. My son went and stayed with my dad for a few months and I tried to get myself together and I really started to cope with drinking. I don't feel like it was anything that was like super out of control. I don't remember a lot from then either, um, because of the anxiety medicine as well. So a lot of it is like blurred in that area. But that was when I feel like things got to a point where this started to become more than just like I'm doing this on the weekends to relax or, you know, just to celebrate. it was really like, now I need to drink. Now I need to take a Xanax to get through the day. There was just a period of a couple of years where that was just my life. My everyday life was just, I just needed to get through the day. And I lost like chunks of time because I didn't really want to be present and I was not present at all. It felt very painful to be present and I needed to be able to show up. I needed to be able to show up to work. I needed to be able to show up as a parent. And I felt like if I felt the weight of everything from the decisions I was making to the losses I was dealing with to the traumatic situations that I was in and not dealing with. I just felt like I couldn't, so I feel like I fell into this cocoon. I was very isolated. I had a few friends that I hung out with who some of them were on the same thing I was on, some of them were just supporting, but I don't think any of us back then understood what was really going on with anybody because we were all wrapped up in our own stuff. And yeah, so that went on for a while and I think I remember it was 2015 where I feel like things were the worst for me. Like I had went through like a really bad period of depression where I spent like 3 months laying in bed and I barely remember anything in those 3 months because I just didn't want to and I just felt like I needed to escape out of my body and disassociate. And so that is kind of what I did. And my grandmother got sick and she ended up in the hospital. And I remember laying in bed that day and I was laying next to my um, wife at the time, and she just looked at me and she said, like, you have to get up. Your life is about to fall apart. And my life literally fell the fuck apart after that. Gosh, so many things. So my grandma got sick and she passed away, and that was the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. We had a very complicated relationship, but really we had spent almost every day together and we had lived together for a really long time and I didn't know how to live life without her. I didn't know how to handle adulting and all of these things. And so I just pretended that I had it. And I didn't tell anybody how I was feeling. This is when I isolated the most. And I feel like I kind of burnt a lot of my relationships to the ground because I didn't even know how to voice that I needed help. I didn't realize I needed help because I was denying that anything was even wrong with me in the first place. So I couldn't see that I needed help because I was living in a world of delusion. I know that my drinking was really bad then. I couldn't even tell you how much I was drinking because I don't remember. But I ended up getting married and divorced almost in the same year. Then the following year, 2016, is kind of where I really feel like this is where my rock bottom started. Um, and as much as I hate the events that happened around this time, I feel like maybe it is what I needed to get where I am today. In 2016, I know my drinking was out of control. I was still going to work every day and doing what I needed to do and functioning and showing up and like how I could not tell you, but I know at some point it went from, like drinking at night and on the weekends to having liquor in my coffee in the morning and random times during the day, but still going to work, still functioning. But I mentally, I was not good at all. Um, and I was barely dealing with my life at all. I was just focusing on work. If I'm doing great at work, then things are fine. Um, and they weren't really fine. I was ignoring a lot of things and not taking care of myself or a lot of things that I needed to take care of. And um, I had this voice in my head, this really mean voice that got like really, really loud about how why no one would want to be with me, and like of course I'm alone, and like there was so many mean things that I was saying to myself. I remember getting to a point where I was so angry and so depressed and so sad. I felt like I didn't have anything nice to say, so I just didn't say anything at all. And my friend who was living with me, she took that personally and thought I was mad at her. And how would she know? I wasn't telling her, like, so I don't really blame her for feeling that way, but we ended up getting into an argument and I had a mental breakdown and ended up in the hospital for the first time. And what triggered me to even say anything is that day I had self-harmed, and that's something I hadn't done for at least like since I was in high school. I self-harmed for a while in high school, and a friend of mine made me promise I would stop doing it, and it finally just stuck, and I stopped doing it for a number of years. So I knew something had to be up if that was something that I resorted to, because it had never been anything that had crossed my mind. Um, I remember that day very vividly because after we got into that argument and I had self-harmed, I just cried, and I literally couldn't stop crying for like hours. And finally, I was just like, I need help. I need help. I don't know what's going on. This isn't right. So I called my mom and asked her to keep my son so I could check myself into the hospital. And I went to my job and talked to my boss and kind of just explained what I had going on. And he told me, do what you need to do and you'll have a job when you get back. And I went into the hospital and they told me I needed to be off work for 30 days, which was very daunting to me because was a person who did not miss work for 30 days. Like, if I may need a day off here and there or take a vacation, but a whole month, like that was really daunting, especially being behind on paying rent at my grandmother's house to my father. And I got out of the hospital in the end of November, so like around Thanksgiving, and I was kicked out of my grandmother's house again, so my dad could sell that house in December, actually 2 days after Christmas, and that was a fun time. The police got called, and I guess I was just trying to like hope that this wasn't real, so I didn't really prepare on grabbing anything. So I really just kind of ended up grabbing what I could in the moment. I was just very very in a daze. I felt like I was in a daze is like the best way to describe that. Um, After that, I don't know, things changed a little. Um, I was still drinking quite a bit and going out, but not so much that it was like raising any red flags for anybody. Um, because again, I was still functioning really well and doing what I needed to do. Just now I was doing a little bit of therapy, and um, that was the first time I had ever really got serious about therapy, and I felt like I had it and I stopped going. And this is where like my drinking got scary for me. Um, I remember one time going out to a bar with a friend, and we had both gotten stood up, so we decided we were just going to drink about it. And Lord, that was an evening. I don't remember a lot of it. I know I don't know, we probably acted a fool. I couldn't tell you. I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I don't remember getting either of us home. All I remember was waking up and having to throw up. And I was like, okay, we can't do that no more. That was, I was like, I definitely have to stop drinking like this. I'm not in my early 20s anymore. This is not okay. So I just attempted to cut back, and I don't know what cutting back was supposed to look like because I don't feel like I cut back a ton, but enough to like have a limit. So I was moderating okay. And then things got dark again for me. I just was very triggered, and a lot of things were happening, but I remember one day I just felt like I was always going to be in pain. It's always going to be a cycle of pain. I'm always going to be okay for a little bit, and then it's going to be a whole lot of pain. And I just felt like I couldn't live like this anymore. So I decided that I wasn't going to live like this anymore or at all. And I wrote notes to a few people until like I didn't have any more mental energy for that. And I took a bunch of my anxiety medication. Um, and I told my mom I didn't feel good so that she wouldn't check on me, and I went to sleep. This is how I know, like, there's definitely like a higher power at work because the way things went from here, it was just a friend of mine who was working with me at the time noticed I had left because I just decided to leave early that day because, like, what's the point? I'm not gonna spend my last day like working all day. So I just left. I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't ask permission, nothing. I just left. I just left. And I guess she noticed that I had left and felt like something was wrong, so reached out to another friend of mine and was like, "Hey, you need to check on her." And so I'm assuming they finally got in touch with my mom and she came to check on me, and that's where I remember a little bit here. I woke up and I was just like, "Am I really still here?" And it took me a minute to realize what really had just happened. I remember her asking me if I wanted to go to the hospital, and I said yeah, because I definitely needed help for real. In the hospital, that was when I decided that I really couldn't live like this anymore, and that I wanted to live, but I couldn't live feeling like this. And I didn't know what I needed to do, but I was willing to do whatever it is that I needed to do to live a happier, more prosperous life. So I took the group therapy seriously. I took like taking my medication seriously, and I still was drinking at the time. And I was on the anxiety meds, but I wasn't abusing them anymore. And I felt like I had everything under control for a while, and I think I did. And so that was 2017 that the attempt happened, and then I kind of was trying to get my life together. So I was trying to enjoy life. Like I literally was trying to find any reason to enjoy life, and I did just that. And eventually, I just came to the conclusion that I wasn't supposed to be living in Florida anymore. That I tried to make this work, and it just seemed like I just couldn't do it. Um, and something in me was just saying it's not because you can't do it. Isn't the place for you. And then shortly after that, I got an opportunity to move to Virginia, and I took that. So I come to Virginia, and I feel like, okay, I don't want to say escaped all my problems, but it definitely felt like I left all that shit behind. Felt like I left all of that behind, and like I'm starting a new life, and I'm gonna do great. And I don't know. Um, my problems caught up with me as they always do. But I moved to Virginia, and I wasn't able to find a job doing anything in the medical field, and that was a little discouraging. But I wanted to get out of the medical field anyway. I felt like that wasn't the place for me. I'm too loud, colorful, and all of these other things, and it just wasn't for me. I don't think it was for me, and that's okay. I think I served my time and my purpose in the medical field. I get here and just trying to make it work with the girlfriend that I was with at the time, and this was a very different relationship that I got in, and we were drinking quite a bit. But again, this felt normal because everybody was kind of doing that, and everybody's going to work and we're all functioning. So this is where my problems started to sneak back in, and I couldn't figure out where the heck they were coming from and how the heck to get this under control. And I didn't have a doctor here when I came here, and I I wasn't immensely in a place to like set all of that stuff up. I was still trying to find a job and trying to figure out, trying to deal with like the weight of moving because like yes, it was really good for me and yes, I needed to move here, but it was hard. I was real lonely. I did not know how to deal with that. I didn't have any place to escape. My people were not here. The things that I used to have all access to, I didn't have any access to. So that was really hard. Um, so I drank and smoked and just kind of like let that be what it was. Um, I feel like I just drank to cope with things, and eventually I stopped taking my antidepressants and my anti-anxiety meds, um, because I was trying to get pregnant and it seemed like a good idea at the time, and that's what I did. So I got off all my meds and um, things were okay, I think, until I started working again. And I was working with my girlfriend at the time, which I don't ever recommend, especially with the dynamic that was going on with that. I wouldn't recommend it. I felt like my life was definitely on display there, and this is where my drinking started to show up everywhere because the decisions that I was making, I wasn't thinking, I was just doing things, and that stuff was like definitely coming out. And me, I'm just like, you know what, it is what it is. I made that decision. That was me. I'm usually pretty honest. That's the Sag in me, and I almost sometimes I'm honest to a fault, but like that was quite a bit, and it eventually led me to get therapy, to start therapy again. And I still didn't realize like the drinking had anything to do with the chaos that was going on in my life. Hadn't connected it. It didn't seem like it was an issue, even though I feel like it was getting really problematic. It was just easy to hide because that there was just a lot of chaos at that job and just in my life at the time. So it was easy to hide behind that. And that relationship fell apart, and I had to find a place to stay, and I threw myself into work in an unhealthy way. Like I focused all of my time and energy on work because I had just became a manager and it's something I wanted to do for a long time and felt like I needed to prove myself. And this job taught me a lot because nobody wanted to teach me. I'm not really sure exactly why. I know that um, my girlfriend at the time had talked a lot of shit about me before I ended up at that job. And so that kind of was what it was. But like a lot of people they didn't like me. They talked shit about me. So I had to deal with like hearing that and pretending like I just didn't give a fuck about what was going on because like literally I came here to make money, not friends, you know? So I just threw myself into learning because I wanted to do well at this job. That was something that was important to me. I am a recovering perfectionist, so I like to do well at everything that I do. I like to know exactly what I need to know so I can do exactly what I need to do and get these perfect marks. And that was stressful, and the stress was a lot on me. And then 2020 hit. I had been doing pretty well. I feel like I was hanging out with some people that I was doing a lot of drinking with, but it didn't really get problematic, I feel like, until 2020 when everything shut down and then it was like everything was secret. I felt like I was living a lot of secrets. I remember eating a lot of fast food in the car by myself because I didn't want anybody to say anything about what I was eating. And I was having nights where I was binge drinking a ton with a friend of mine. And, you know, like I had done this before. So like it almost just felt like it clicked for me. I was like, oh, okay, this is normal. This is cool. I can do this because I can go to work and then I can come home and just do this and that'll be fine. And I think there was a few times where I might have been like, this is kind of crazy because we would drink a ton and my friend would be passed out and I would just be up, awake and doing things. And like that was weird to me because like I hadn't been able to drink like that and function like that in a really long time. And usually that doesn't bode well. And I remember going out one night and I was super anxious and like the boyfriend I was with at the time, we were like arguing, so I just wasn't in a good place and I I don't feel it. I don't even remember if I drank a lot or I had a lot of straight liquor, which is something I hadn't done in a while. And I remember, I don't know, I just remember like embarrassing myself and I just had to leave. But I remember just kind of like I guess like coming to, which I didn't even realize I had gotten to a point where like I wasn't in the driver's seat anymore, but I definitely blacked out or something because I just remember coming to and then someone was like, that was really mean. Why would you say that? I have no idea what I said. To this day, I have no idea what I said to whoever it was. I had no idea. And that was scary to me. And that made me look at things a little different. Like that whole night, I had a whole spiral and everything. And that really made me take a look at what was going on with me. Like, how did I get here? Because everything was great. I had a great job. I was doing so well away from all of the things that I was getting into before. I wasn't doing all of the same things, but my drinking was kind of the same. But I wasn't looking at that. And then I got to a point again. This was about 2021 now, where I started to like really see like, is this what I want to keep doing? Is this how I want my life to be? And a lot of what I had going on, including the people I was with, I eventually got to a point where I knew it was time to let go. Um, I've learned not to work myself into the ground, which is something I did a lot in my addiction. I think I felt like if I could just do all of these things perfectly, then it wouldn't matter what else happened when I drank or, was doing any of the other things that I was doing. And I think ultimately I did myself a huge disservice, even trying to self-medicate with alcohol and the anxiety meds and really anything. Like, there was a point where it was like I wanted to try anything. I was like, okay, this seems fun. This would be cool. Like, very reckless behavior, and I didn't really care for a while if I lived or died. I felt like I wasn't making a difference here. I felt like I was just causing problems. I felt like I was always just causing problems. And I see now that all of that was what I'm here for now. All of that is what is going to help me connect and what ultimately like built me for doing what I'm going to be doing from here on out and doing what I am already doing here today. So I'm definitely really proud of myself for getting out. Geez, I mean, I still was in it at that point. But I will say, like, around this time, I had been offered like anxiety meds, and I wouldn't take them because I didn't want to even think about getting to that point where I was in bed 24/7 and sick all the time and so lonely and like my head was just full of all this crap and I don't know, I wasn't standing up for myself. I wasn't doing anything. I just didn't want to get back to that. I didn't realize what that meant, but I knew I wasn't going to do it. And I'm actually really, really thankful that I was strong enough to not do it. I feel like I got sober in stages and not even realizing that was what I was doing. But February of 2021, I decided to put in my 2 weeks at the job where I was being a store manager. I couldn't take the stress anymore. And honestly, I was just tired of them playing with me. At the end of the day, I was doing more work than I should have been for the pay that I was receiving. Like, really knowing how much store managers make now, really, they were playing in my face. And for the amount of stress that I was having, it just wasn't worth it. And also, I didn't like how things were being ran, and I was coming to the realization if I come here and do these things, I'm complacent in this. I'm saying I'm okay with this because my actions are showing that I'm okay with this, and I'm not okay with this. So I left, and it did take a lot of stress off of me, but I still wasn't quite there yet. So after I left that job, that was February 2021, I was at home, but like being a servant basically, and then also trying to have a party life on the side still. And eventually, I think around like May, I kind of had a breakdown, like a physical breakdown this time where I literally like cried on the couch for a long time because I was just too tired to move. I couldn't even think about putting my feet on the floor to even go upstairs or make it to the kitchen, which was a few feet away, or like I had literally somehow even at home worked myself into the ground because I guess I wasn't trying to look at what was going on. I was very unhappy. I didn't want to be where I was at. The relationship I was in, neither one of us was happy in it, and it lasted longer than it should have, and I was paying attention to a lot of things I didn't need to be paying attention to, and also, doing things I wasn't necessarily supposed to be doing because I was drinking and I felt like this is fine. But in May, later on, I think it was like 2 weeks after that breakdown, I ended up splitting up with my partner. He broke up with me, and something just changed for me then because I knew I wanted out, and the universe gave me a way out. And not only did the universe give me a way out, the universe burnt the entire bridge for that even being an option again. And I think that was good for me. I needed to see that. I needed to get out of that. And I was just, I don't know, I didn't know what I needed. I had slowed down my drinking quite a bit at this time because I had tried to stop drinking at some point, like while I was trying to get all of this together before that physical breakdown. So I was drinking less, but for some reason I wasn't, at the point where I was like, okay, I can just cold turkey stop. But I was drinking a lot less. I split up with the partner, and I had opened my photography store. And this is where my journey that I've talked about really began. I opened my photography store, and I was staying with a friend, and moved to Maryland in July. And my last drink was June 30th. Yeah, that was like I couldn't remember if it was 30 or 31 days, but my last drink was June 30th, and I haven't drank alcohol since then. My sobriety has been a really fun journey, and when I first stopped drinking 100%, um, I had just moved to Maryland. I was staying with my son's grandmother, and it was a lot. I was very triggered, and I don't know why, but something in me just said, don't drink. Don't drink. Just do what you need to do. Don't drink. And I didn't smoke for probably like 30 days either. So I was dealing with everything, all of these emotions and feelings like sober, and it was driving me nuts. I can't even lie. Like I was crying a lot and felt really lonely, and I don't know. I don't know why I didn't reach for alcohol or didn't break down, but I'm thankful that I didn't. And once I got to 30 days, once I had realized that it was 30 days, I was like looking at the date and I was like, hold on, I haven't had any alcohol for 30 days. And something in me, was like, hey, you need to share this. And so I did. And I think that was just the accountability that I needed because I don't know, it gave me a reason to get excited about it. Like I felt really excited about it. I was like, oh my God, haven't drank. And then like everybody's like, oh, congratulations, that's so awesome. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. And I remember thinking like, let's see how far I can go. I didn't was gonna not drink at all forever at that point. I just knew that I wanted to see how far I could take it. And At some point, I just realized this was what I needed to be doing. I needed to stay sober, and I'm gonna just keep doing this. I ended up getting a job as a kickboxing instructor, and that really changed my life. Because all of the things I started to deal with sober, all of the anger, all of the pent-up anxiety, all of that was so much easier to deal with because I was punching bags for a living. Like, oh my gosh. And then it was such a cool experience because I wanted to teach, but I was really nervous to speak in front of people. And this opened the door for all of it. And I think that's how I got here. Um, I feel like everything happens for a reason. I ended up getting that kickboxing job and ended up moving back to Virginia to help a friend that I had at the time. And partly because like I was, going on I knew if I didn't try and do this that I was gonna regret it. So I moved here and this was like a true test of my sobriety, true test of my sobriety, because the friend that I moved back in with was the friend that I was binge drinking with a lot in 2020, and that was our thing. That was what we did. That's how we hung out, and I was a little worried, but not a ton because I had already committed to staying sober, and I knew that I wanted to do that. There was only one particular time where I was feeling, I don't know, maybe my feelings were hurt and I was feeling shame, if I want to put a name on it, I think it was. And I don't know, it was just like I knew when I felt those feelings, my first instinct was to drink so that I didn't feel those feelings. And usually I would get to a point where the alcohol would take over and I would be a different person. So that person who felt like that was non-existent. And that's how I used to drink. And I don't know, it was kind of crazy. It was like two people like fighting, and that was a moment where I was like, oh my God, I need to drink. And I was like, you know what? I just really like excused myself from the situation. I didn't say anything to anybody and I remember going to take a shower and I just like really was just thinking like I could drink right now, but what if I didn't? Like how would I feel if I drank? Like how would I feel if that's what I did right now after all of this and not in like a shameful way, but like really just like how would I feel? Like would I be okay with this? Like is it even worth it? Like would it even be worth it to have a drink to calm down? Because I don't think that it would be and I didn't. And once I got past that, I think I knew I was going to be okay. I knew that sobriety was going to be something that I could continue on. That whole living situation did not work out for very long. That fell apart. And again, trying to find another place to stay. And thankfully, feel like the universe places so many angels in my life. I had a friend who's like my sister. She took me in and I really got my shit together. Like that was the chance for me to really get my shit together. Um, I left my friend alone. I really found myself. I went through that business coaching program and I really got serious about like doing my thing. And yeah, and that's how I really got here. And now I'm dealing with a couple of new things sober. And like I said, I had that moment earlier this month where it was like, whoa, like I don't think I've ever felt like I need and not be sober. I need to not be sober to get through this. And I had to sit with that. And also like listening to the sober podcast, I had to really like look at my life and that part, that chunk of my life from like 2012 to 2017. I didn't want to look at that. I wasn't looking at that, and I was looking at it. I wasn't looking at those parts I shared with you today, and even some of those parts that I haven't shared. Like I wasn't looking at that, and I wasn't being honest about it. And I think that was starting to hinder my sobriety. So I know that I just need to continue to be honest and um hence why I'm showing up. And I feel like I needed to share those pieces of my story. And, I know there will be more from here, but this is me opening up just a little bit more, letting y'all get to know me, and just kind of letting you like sobriety is possible. And, even if you don't feel like you have a huge problem, it's okay if you want to see if your life gets better, if you let certain things go. And it's okay to be about these things. I think the isolation and the shame and the stigma, and those are the things that are keeping us in that cycle of addiction. The lies and the hiding that keeps you in that cycle of addiction. And I've committed to sobriety, which means I have to show up. That means I have to share, and that means I have to be honest about how I feel. I have to be honest about where I am. I have to be honest about what it is that I'm doing. I have to be honest about the choices that I'm making, especially to myself, because there's really no running away from yourself. Like, I know that saying where it's like, I mean, you get tired of your own shit, and I was tired of my shit. I was. Like years and years before I got sober, I was tired of my shit, and also didn't realize like what was causing it. I thought it was just fucked up. Like I was just like, man, I'm never gonna get this, and I'm shit, and all of the crazy stuff I would never say about myself now. But like I really just thought that I wasn't gonna be anything. I thought that I had peaked and that was it, and I was upset because like if that was the peak, like what the fuck is about, Like, but I'm so glad that I made it. I'm so glad that I lived. I'm so glad that I decided to take my life back because I feel like each of those little steps got me here. I feel like when I found hula hooping after my grandmother died, that started a little something because at that point I was so numb. I wasn't feeling anything. I thought I was happy, but like I hadn't felt happiness until I started doing that hula hooping and I was like, "Oh my God, I feel something." And that started it. I think that started it. And, from there, the little events that happened and little things fell off. And then, when I went to the hospital and I decided I'm going to live my life different, that was another piece that helped me grow. And I feel like every single step since then has paved the way. Like I could walk and I walked so I can now run. And like, speaking of running, I'm this year and never thought that I would be running because I don't like running, but it's challenging and I like to challenge myself. I like to push myself. Um, Instead of testing the limits of like addiction and seeing if playing that Russian roulette of like, am I gonna make it through this? Or like what's this gonna be like? And if I make it through, like, to like challenging my body to be healthier. And I just feel so much better. And I'm really thankful that I made it to be sober. One thing that has been heavy on me is just dealing with the health issues that come from the drug and alcohol use on top of the mental health issues that I had. So that was hard to start dealing with at first, but I'm really excited to know what like my actual symptoms are versus like what the alcohol was causing and the drugs were causing or covering up so that I can tailor my treatment plan. I feel like I have a much better treatment plan now and I'm much happier now and I'm really, really grateful for that. So what I'll leave you with if you are trying to get sober, stay sober, community is going to be the biggest thing. I did not do 12 steps. That wasn't really for me. I'm not really like a faith-based program kind of person. And I thought that was like the only way to go, but I'm glad to see that there's a lot of other avenues now. But I found, um, honestly, my spirituality, I think, helped a bit. Like I found spirituality and therapy and tarot that really held me for a minute because in the spiritual realm, like it's really hard for you to hide behind a facade. The card see right through that. The people you connect with can see right through that. And it's helped me hold myself accountable because like if I can't hide, then there's no reason to lie. And then if I'm just being honest, I might as well just take it all the way and do something that's going to be beneficial to everyone. That's where I'm at. If you made it all the way to the end of this episode, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I'm really excited for what's to come here in the elevated arts and healing space. We are sober and thriving out here in these streets, and I'm excited to do more for my community. I'm excited to be more active in the community and be in a mental space that I can actually do that. Like I can actually show up. Like I don't have to run away. I'm excited to feel, I mean, I do feel different. I do feel different. Like I turned 35 and I swear like I don't know, like I feel good about me. Like I've this is the healthiest I've ever felt. I'm eating better, making better decisions. And I'm gonna tell you, after, I quit the alcohol and stuff, like there was other things that had to be dealt with. Like my eating was another one, and the gym helped me with that. Um, because like if I'm eating in secret, that means that something's up. Like I shouldn't be eating in secret. So I'll probably share more about like my dealings with eating disorders and such in a different episode. I feel like I shared a lot today, and so I'm gonna leave it with that. Again, I want to say thank you for joining me today. You can subscribe, leave a comment down below if any of this resonated with you, or if you just feel so inclined. If you're listening here on Spotify, again, thank you for being here. There's a Q&A that you can answer if you want to leave questions for me, or if there's anything that you want to say about this episode today. I would definitely appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for today. I am gonna drink my tea and call it for today and relax. So thank you for joining me. I can't wait to see you in this next season of Elevated Arts and Healing, the podcast, where we talk about being sober and thriving and dive a little deeper into some of the empowered consistency concepts and also so many other things. We're going to have lots of new people on the podcast this next season as well, too. I'm super excited about the collaborations that are going on. And yeah, don't forget to check out amyelevated.com to show some support. We have those limited edition posters, the reflections album that you can look at and purchase photos from if you like them. You can check out the blog. New stuff is going up on the blog here soon as well. There's lots of good blog posts on the website as well. And just keep your eye out because there's going to be ebooks, and the Empowered Consistency Workbook is coming out again soon. Yeah, so love yourselves, make good decisions, and I will see y'all later.